Welcome back to UC Davis Live. I'm Satirius Johnson. Agricultural workers have been essential employees throughout the pandemic, working to keep food on our tables. Farm workers are also vulnerable to COVID due to lack of access to resources and healthcare. Since March of last year, the UC Davis Western Center for Agricultural Health and Safety has been providing training and resources for farmers and farm workers about COVID-19 precautions and safety. In October, communicators from the UC Davis College of Agricultural and Environmental Sciences joined the effort to increase outreach throughout the state. Joining me to talk about the effort are Teresa Andrews, an education and outreach specialist with the Western Center for Agricultural Health and Safety at UC Davis. She's lead trainer for the COVID-19 outreach program. Andrews has extensive experience working with cultural minorities, including developing educational materials and conducting training. And she's forged collaborative links with the Hispanic farm worker groups in the area, growers, farm labor contractors, community organizations, employers, and insurance personnel. Hernan Hernandez is executive director of the California Farm Workers Foundation, whose mission is to serve and support California farm workers by providing programs and services to better their quality of life. The foundation has partnered with agricultural organizations and healthcare providers to provide social and public health programs for farm workers. And Sarait Martinez is executive director of the Binational Center for the Development of Oaxacan Indigenous Communities. The center works to foster and strengthen the civic participation, economic, social, and cultural development of indigenous migrant communities. Thank you all for coming on today.
Thank you.
So before we get started, I just wanted to remind viewers that this is a free webcast. You can watch it live and watch it after the live broadcast on the UC Davis Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube channels. We are aware of others posting links saying that you have to pay to watch this video, so please do not click on those links. This is a free webcast. And we are taking audience questions, of course. If you're watching us live, just leave them in the comment section and we'll work in as many as we can. So Hernan, I'd like to start with you. How has the pandemic impacted farm workers? Like, what are the special challenges for farm workers and farmers?
I think the pandemic has severely affected farm workers in various ways. If we just look at what COVID-19 has done in some of the communities in which we work with when it comes to health, we know that many of the farm worker families have already lost family members, they lost neighbors, they lost co-workers, and it's all due to COVID-19. When we look at labor and how much work was lost last year because of the economy coming to a halt, then we know that farm workers were working less, which means that translates into having less wages to pay for their basic utilities that they need on a day-to-day basis to survive. So what we have been noticing is that we have a community that's in need, a community that many times have been left behind by some of the structures that are there to help them. And our role as a CBO is to continue to fulfill some of those needs by investing not only in the education aspect, but also in some of the services that they need, such as healthcare, basic rent utility assistance, and other support services that they have been asking CBOs to fill in that void for them.
And how large of a farm worker community are we talking about? Like, how many people have been affected by this numbers wise?
You know, in California, we're thinking of anywhere from 800,000 to 1 million farm workers that participate in the agriculture sector. So it has been literally 800 to 100 to 1 million farm workers that have been severely affected by this.
That's a huge number of people. Yeah.
Yes.
Teresa, how did UC Davis get involved in COVID-19 outreach to agriculture?
Well, as part of the outreach effort, we always are providing training to farmers, farm workers on different health and safety issues. So when COVID started, we immediately started addressing those kind of needs for information. So we were lucky that last fall we received money from the state to multiply the efforts, because we are a small team. We are only 6 people, and going out is just me and another coworker. The rest is like social media, things like that. So usually in a good year, we can reach out 1,800 people with our trainings, but with the partnerships and collaboration we develop with the funding from the state, we have reached over 160,000 farm workers and almost 1,500 employers. So as you see, through the collaboration, we are reaching out to more people with the information. It's science-based. is understanding the physiology, how the body fights the virus, microbiology, how the virus affects the body. So all those issues, but in a very easy to understand way for the farm workers to really grasp the concepts. So when they are protecting themselves, they know what they are preventing from happening.
So what are some of the activities that your program has been doing? And like, how did your small staff of 6 go from, reaching, what did you say, 1,600 or 1,800 people to, many times that? So how are you doing it? How are you doing
With the
it?
collaboration, when we received the funding from the Labor Workforce Development Agency, the way our leadership head writer structured the grant was to have subcontract with agencies or CBOs, community-based organizations like the ones represented here with Hernan and Sarait. We have the California Fine Labor Contractor Association. We work with Farm Employer Labor Services.
Right.
We work with the Institute, several CBOs.
Yeah.
And
so
then,
what activities have you all been doing?
Okay, we train them. We train them on understanding the virus, how you can reduce the risk. What are the workers' rights? What are the obligations of the employer? So by training them in some kind of train the trainer, they multiply the information. So when our collaborators go out, they are able to reach people one-on-one in the fields or host small events for them to be always with the precautions necessary to avoid the risk of COVID infection. But they are being there in the front lines, reaching out those that really need the information. So we host these webinars, and then the collaborators go out in the community.
It almost sounds like you're fighting a virus with a virus model. Like you're teaching some people, those people go out and teach other people, and other goes on and on.
Yeah, and they always can reach us with questions, specific information they need. So they are informing the workers and empowering them with the knowledge they need.
So Sarait, what are the special challenges for agricultural workers from indigenous migrant communities as far as they go?
Yes, thank you for that question. I do believe I definitely agree with Hernan in terms of the challenges in overall farm workers. And CBDIO or Centro Binacional does represent a part of the farm worker community that oftentimes is invisible. And it's invisible because it's often believed that everyone that works in the fields speaks Spanish and, comes either Mexican or other parts of Central America or other parts of Mexico. But, Mexico itself is a very diverse country with 62 different languages. In Oaxaca alone, the state that most of our members come from, we speak 16 different unique languages. And within those languages, we have multiple variants. So there's a different, and it's completely different. It's not like, you speak to me slowly and I'm understand if I speak Spanish. So our role has really been to fill that gap that has been, and it was even before the pandemic came. And that gap is really created by, again, this lack of visibility of our community for different agencies, not only at the healthcare department now with COVID, but also in the workforce. And we know that agencies that aim to protect workers are not linguistically and culturally equipped and competent to support our farm worker community, indigenous farm worker community, in that we have this huge language gap in terms of providing services, that we know that agencies don't have community or workers, employers that speak indigenous languages, or they don't understand, our culture. So we also have in that language access piece is so important in the sense that, even before COVID, again, when we had agencies going and train workers about their rights and where to contact if there's a violation, it's often done in Spanish or English and not address the language of our communities that, again, is greater in all agricultural regions. and that, we have seen through our work multiple violations that happen because of that language access. We have had examples of workers signing papers about, reducing the rate, like any paper that is given to workers is either in Spanish and English. And we have seen workers signing it without understanding what they're signing and not having the proper explanation in their language. So again, this goes beyond, the workplace, but also by accessing services of COVID testing, or even getting the vaccine, all the information that comes from healthcare departments, the worker in the workplace comes in Spanish or English. So not really accessible for our community. And then something that came out also from the pandemic that we knew existed, but we didn't rely so much on it, is the technology. And, everything has to be either registered to even get your COVID testing, or to do, to sign up for the vaccine. You have to sign up online. And we know that, that poses additional barriers for our community to access services. So, I mean, you see from, and again, like this is not also unique for Indigenous farm workers, but from many other farm workers that come from places that have been disproportionately impacted or oppressed, not only in the United States, but from our countries of origin, that we don't have access to education. So our, the levels of schooling may not be as greater. So having documents that are accessible is crucial, especially during times of crisis.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people would be surprised to hear that there are so many different languages that people are speaking and are not being communicated to with all this important information. So are most of the people of a particular language, are they kind of geographically close to each other? When you're doing outreach, when you're meeting a group of people, do you have to deal in multiple languages, or is there a large, a mass of people, critical mass of people in one geographic location? I mean, is that a challenge as well, being able to just speak to a group of people in one language and saying, okay, we got a lot of people there, and then we can go move geographically somewhere else?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one of the things that distinguish, I don't think it's only our communities, but we know that Indigenous farm worker communities migrate in networks. So we know that, where a group from a town that speaks that specific language is located, we know that there's more people that will speak that same language. So our outreach strategy has been, ensuring that, one, we have been able to identify where the groups and the communities live. And the pandemic, something that is leaving to us is a greater mapping of where our community is located, because we have so many efforts doing outreach and education and building the capacity of our farm workers or farm worker communities to ensure that they know their rights and they know where to access information. But yes, we have identified networks, and also all of our staff. One is Indigenous, and they speak a language, are bilingual or trilingual. And even in our staff, it keeps changing so much, but we have about 9 different unique languages. And within one language, like let's say Mixteco, we have about 10 different variants of Mixteco that our staff speaks. So again, we have a very diverse, linguistically and culturally diverse staff. And most of our staff are former farm workers, so they know where our community gathers, they know where to go, and they have those connections in the community.
That's great. So we are taking audience questions. If you are watching us live, just leave them in the comment section and we'll work in as many as we can. So how does the program work with farmers and owners as well as workers exactly? I don't know who would like to take that question.
We have partnerships, as I say, like through Hernan's agency, for example, is one of them. We work with the Farm Employee and Labor Services, and it's a branch of the Farm Bureau. We have the Napa Farm Worker Foundation, and we have direct trainings to the employers. And for example, we offer monthly seminars, and we invite a representative Kalosha and a representative of the Labor Commissioner, and farmers, farm labor contractors, employers register, and we present them via Zoom. And it's like there are different strategies. And also we have the social media. So some people can get the information through the social media, so others through the Zoom events we are hosting monthly, others in partnership with our collaborators in the project. So it's different strategies to reach as many as possible.
So if there was a farm owner who wanted to work with you and say, I would love for my farm workers to learn about COVID and everything, you would go to the workplace. Would the workers get paid for the training, and how long does the training take?
The workers have to be paid for the training because it's a requirement, it's a legal requirement for the employer. We can do that training virtually, or in the past we went to the farms. But another way that we can help the employer to train the workers is with the trainings we offer to train the supervisors. And we have materials available like fact sheets, like discussion guides, pocket cards, checklists that they can use to train their workers with the materials we have available in the website. Or we also occasionally offer virtual training for the workers, but we require the employer to have and keep the social distancing, to wear the workers need to wear the mask. So all the precautions, so everyone is safe while learning about the issues. And Hernan, maybe you can tell us a little bit more how you are doing it when you reach the employers.
Yes. So what we do through our organization, we developed an infrastructure 4 years ago, data-driven, working with employers and employees to create a better future for farm workers. What we have been able to accomplish is every single company that works with us has an ambassador. That individual allows us to go in and offer direct services to farm workers at their work sites. Every single training, every single outreach that we do on site is paid for by the grower. So therefore, farm workers do not have to worry about losing their wages. But one of the things I would like to say about UC Davis and the partnership that we've been able to develop with them is that they've been able not only to help us on the ground with providing the education that farm workers need, but also with some of the employers and us as brokering some of these meetings in which they have gone in there and presented to these employers that has then later translate into not only management supervisors knowing exactly what the employees are going through, but also knowing from them firsthand what their needs are. It goes a long way in fulfilling some of the basic services that farm workers need on a day-to-day basis. So one example, we were on Coachella with UC Davis, and Heather came in and talked to all the supervisors for a farm labor contractor. This farm labor contractor has about 5,000-6,000 employees. And afterwards, I remember hearing the testimony of one of the supervisors who said, like, hey, now I know when I'm out there how to talk to farm workers and what to say in regards to COVID-19, because UC Davis has provided this information to me. So I think it's gone a long way, and it has definitely trickled down, not only from the management perspective, but all the way down to the farm worker.
That's really great. I mean, I would imagine also, I would think that in a way, this is bringing kind of the farm workers and the farmers closer together. I mean, as far as increasing communication, I mean, have you been experiencing that? I mean, it sounds like they're having to work a little more closely and learning each other's needs and requirements.
Yes, no, definitely. I think it all comes down to trust, and we know that they work in the same field. They're all one giant family, right? Accomplishing the same goal. But I think the way the CBOs have been able to fill in the void and provide these direct services and getting the company on board to be part of that mission, it goes a long way for the employees. And we notice cases in which employees feel better, they feel happier, but they also have an outlet and they have somebody that they can call whenever something is not only always going right, but also when something goes south and that we know that they need help. Then we also have a direct hotline in which they can contact us and we could connect them with the appropriate departments so that therefore they can solve those issues.
Right. So we have Amy, who's watching on Facebook, is asking, with labor increasingly hard to find and keep, farm workers should be highly valued, but their experience this past year likely leaves many feeling quite the opposite. What's the sentiment you're hearing from different farm worker groups as they head into what will almost certainly be a hot, dry summer with the risk of the virus still present?
You know, something I can say is in recent years, we have been noticing an increase on more sensibility to the needs of the farm workers from the employers. It's like the employers, because they need the workers. Maybe they are realizing how important it is to treat them well, because we learn about cases of people fighting for the workers, but the workers fighting to get to work for a specific grower. And why they are wanted to work for that grower is because they say they treat me well, they treat me with respect. Mm-hmm. So that is like farmers talk, and when they notice those kind of things, they see it's an investment to treat the workers well and to invest in health and safety. In a way, we have seen an increase in the participation in the kind of trainings we do. We just not only do COVID, we do how to implement illness and injury prevention trainings, how to train in heat illness prevention, wildfire, smoke, and all those things. And we see better attendance, more interest from the growers. So I think they are valued more, because now they need to keep them protected and happy.
Right. That's great.
Something I would like to add on that one is definitely, I think, if something the pandemic has shown us is all the different areas where our system is not working. And one of them, and also like the fact that, we all need to eat, and the people doing the feeding and the harvesting are people that are not just value and deem essential like it has been during the pandemic, but it's also reflecting that. And I don't think we're at a point where we are valuing with the right compensation to workers and with the right benefits. We're still struggling, the folks that have suffered the most during the pandemic are essential workers, farm workers, yet they don't have, they're struggling to live, and they have to work to have food at their table to survive. So, I mean, I do hope that, the value that has come out from the pandemic is also reflected in the amount of wages and benefits that workers have, and that is put at a priority to ensure that when disasters like pandemic or fires or any other climate change related issue happens, that our essential workers have the means to protect themselves and to protect their families. So definitely looking at how we can ensure that we just value with the benefits, and also that we stop looking at farm workers as a job that is not value and skilled, that we value in the work that is done by farm workers.
Yeah, to second what Sarah say, I think we really need to advocate for benefits, because during the pandemic, what we were seeing is that many farm workers didn't have the paid time off, even though it was like a federal and state benefit. Some of them didn't qualify because they work very little time from a place to place, and they don't work long enough for them to accrue. And really, it's like the time they can accrue per year, I think it's 3 days, if I'm not mistaken, in a year. So that's not enough to get well from COVID. So we have to do something to recognize how important they are and how important it is for them to have the benefits that we take for granted sometimes.
Right. So, and the solutions to that could be what?
To recognize and validate for the parts of the employers. As I mentioned before, we see because of the attendance that there is more awareness about investment in health and safety. Now we need to go a step further and start investing in workers' benefits, employer benefits to the workers.
Right.
So it's more like a fair feel for them to say, like, working in the fields.
And maybe increasing the number of days they can get off for being sick or for personal time, and then also not requiring, having worked someplace a certain amount of time to get those benefits, right?
Yes.
I think there's structural problems, right, that we see that need to be addressed. We could look at healthcare, we could look at housing, we could look at compensation, benefits. But I think overall, the power of society, they need to think about farm workers and what they apport to the day-to-day life and food at their tables. So we really need to start valuing them, and that value needs to come in a way where, like Sarai and Teresa are saying, it has to be come in a way where we compensate them for what they do on a day-to-day basis, so therefore they're not struggling to get by in the next pandemic. I do think that consumers play a big role in that. I think we got to start looking at, when we go out to the grocery store, how much we're paying for our fruits, for our vegetables, because we need to make sure that the system that we create is one that's going to be able to sustain farm workers in the future.
So is there a way right now today for consumers to, when they go shopping, to, realize that they're buying fruit that is from a farm that, is treating their workers fairly?
I think go ahead, Emin.
There's various programs that have that, but I think it has to be a more structured push. And I think policy needs to be put into place in Sacramento at the federal level, because that's where we're going to see the for example, paid sick leave being extended, and also farm workers being eligible to other benefits. So it has to be a private-public sector.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be an easy situation or an easy fix, because it had many levels. Policies we have seen that they work at central level, but it's in between the levels that we need to start addressing. I think it's going to take baby steps. And I don't want to be political in this, because it's health and safety after all, but starting with an immigration reform that gives them the right and feel empowered to talk about their rights could be an issue. So as I say, it's different things. From the side of employers, to treat them with respect, to recognize the humanity behind each of the workers, for each of the consumers to feel like we are different colors and sizes, but we are people and we want the same. So it's not going to be an easy thing, because socioeconomical and cultural barriers are there, and it's not going to be solved just with wishes, but it's going to take a little bit from everyone for us to live in a better society at large.
And can I just share a little bit? I echo what both Hernan and Teresa have shared. And I do feel like, it is a very complex issue. And I do feel that, again, the pandemic has been so determined now. And I've heard this from several people, like, we cannot go back to normal. And we need to start making changes like now to ensure that we're building a different structured, because the one we have is not working. And I do feel like, yes, immigration reform, we know that immigration is at a core of different vulnerabilities of our indigenous or farm workers in general, undocumented folks. So definitely immigration reform. But I do feel that, yes, consumers play a critical role in this, and we should be, as consumers, ensuring that what we get from our fruits and vegetables and just overall services are fair, and that workers are treated right from different sectors, all sectors, especially farm workers. And the one thing in that we're pushing as consumers, we know we all have not only purchasing power, but political power when we live and pay taxes and are part of, of any community. We have our representatives, and we can definitely be engaged to ensure that those policies change. And then the last thing I did want to share is that right now, agencies and the government, even though this is a complex issue and it will take a lot more political will and policies, there's immediate things that we can do. In agencies, again, if we're talking about farm worker safety, we still have a long way to go just to ensure basic protections that were failing before the pandemic. we're about to start the farm worker season in several regions, and we need to make sure that, again, farm workers continue to know about their rights during COVID, to take those, the 80 hours of sick leave that they have the right to now. And that, we finding right now through our outreach, workers that don't have water, that don't have soap to wash their hands in the restrooms. There's multiple violations happening now that don't need to wait until we have a structural change, but that agencies need to make sure that that workers and employers and growers are complying with the current laws that we have now. So I do feel that we need to continue to push, but there's so many other things that need to happen to ensure the safety of our workers before even waiting and just complying with the law, because it's not happening.
Okay, so Pingo from who's watching on YouTube asks, does paying for worker training disincentivize farm workers to participate if they have to pay their workers for COVID training? I would imagine they're already not paid a lot.
Paying for training is part of the law. It's a requirement of the law, so they have to pay them. So,
but I guess the question is, by requiring the farmers to pay for the training to their workers, is that a disincentive for them to participate in the training?
It should be no, because I think each of us, when we were hired by our agencies, we attended trainings. I remember when I started, I think I went for the full day for a training, and I was being paid. So why it could happen to someone at certain levels, and we would like to skip that for other levels, is, as I was saying, the structural change includes policies, but cultural perspective, practices. Then if I want to be treated with respect as a human being, I should give that to others. And if we try to work to go for that ideal, then we are going to have a little bit better, fair society for everyone.
So how has the program been received so far, I guess, from workers and from farmers, people who employ workers?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Just how has the program been received? Have you found resistance from farmers wanting to participate? What has been the reception of the program so far from the people you've been dealing with?
The farmers we are working with, they welcome the program. They welcome the information, because we are there to support them to comply with the law and to still have a good business, a good practice. So I think they welcome the participation. As I say, is how I measure this. We have more people participating in the trainings we offer, and when they brainstorm practical solutions for the requirements of the law. So it's like they welcome those opportunities because they want to do the best they can to reduce the risk. Because if someone is infected, if they have an outbreak, Kalosha can close the business. So I think they are realizing more the importance of health and safety. And yeah, COVID was an opportunity for everyone to think more about those issues.
Anybody else want to address that? What your experiences have been dealing with both the workers and the employers?
I can address it. I think it's been great. I think on both sides, employers, once they discover what UC Davis Ag and Health has to offer, they love that they can go to somebody to provide those trainings, but also to get those technical resources. I was talking to Fresno County just yesterday, and they're very impressed with all the infographics that UC Davis has created that they could share to the rest of their employers. From a farm worker perspective, I think it's also been great on the ground. We've been hearing a lot of good feedback from farm workers in regards to the information that's being provided and the services that the organizations that got funded are being provided to farm workers on the ground. So I think overall, it's been a great investment for both sides. And I think it's only going to help out, hopefully, with this pandemic, alleviate some of the side effects of this pandemic. And hopefully we can get past this pandemic and continue working together as we did during the pandemic.
Right.
I would like to add to a little bit more. like what Hernan mentioned, the materials, we have been working directly with the state to be sure the materials have the legal information that is needed, but with the partners like Hernan and Saraid, to see that the information is also in a way that the workers and the employers are going to digest in an easy way. It's not going to be a lot of legal terminology. It's very practical. And when possible, we use more visuals than letters, words, and then it's very easy for people to understand complex concepts because it's a very cultural sensitive language way to explain. So they can adapt better. And I think in that sense, this project has been a great way of discovering how partnerships and collaboration are improving the results because everyone is informed at different levels about the same rights and responsibilities. The materials are comprehensive and everyone is on board. So change is more likely to happen because everyone is on the same page.
Right. That kind of leads a little bit to, oh, go ahead, Said.
I was going to say for us, it has been also, this collaboration has been great. I think Teresa mentioned at the beginning that they have provided training for our staff and has been great training, you know, in a way that it's understood by our community workers, and also that they're able to share that with farm workers. And I think, again, we're grateful for our collaboration and the materials. And from our perspective, definitely workers are, they receive the information happily. You know, it hasn't been much attention before in ensuring that they know their rights. And we are constantly in doing outreach and education in the Central Valley and the Central Coast, and ensuring that, again, farm workers have the information and they have received the great. We go to the fields and, you know, we still find some growers that don't allow us to go in. We try to do education before work and during lunch. And we still find a couple that are still hesitant, but that we have some relationships in the field, so they let us go in. And because it's harder to reach to farm workers outside because, you know, the restrictions from the pandemic. But other than that, I think, you know, it's been a great collaboration.
Yeah, I was going to ask about some of the other challenges. I know we've talked about the language challenge. Are there other challenges that you have to keep in mind when developing COVID-19 training for the farm? Maybe scheduling issues or, you know, other things like that?
Yeah, we have to be creative to find answers. And something that I want to mention is, like, for example, for the indigenous languages, you cannot have a large group of indigenous language speakers, but the agency have collaborated with us to create videos with key messages. So it could be shared via phones or tablets. So it's a way to give little bits of information, but it's valid information and is going to be appreciated by the workers. And it's going to help them to stand for the rights and to do the right things to protect the workers. So it's like the Zoom meetings that now we have. I remember one of the Saraid staff, Oralia, she mentioned, now I have to be just not training about COVID, but training how to use social media on their phones for them to be able to see the videos, be able to connect to other services. So this has been a challenge, but it has been an opportunity at many levels too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think one of the cool things about our collaboration is that, again, like Teresa mentioned, the videos that we created were specific on our communities, like what they wanted to hear on the message. We often find that message that is translated in multiple languages is taken from the English script to a Spanish or other language. And we know that, at least from our videos that we collaborated with UC Davis, was that we created the message, and, you know, it was reviewed and ensuring that included facts, but it came from what we were hearing from the community. So always going back to the community and listen to what will work to ensure that we're creating the right materials, I think has been one of those opportunities that came out from this. And I think one of the other challenges that, you know, little by little we're trying to create is the fact that not all counties do the same. And we have great collaboration with, let's say, Fresno County that work with growers, letting us go do education before we do vaccination events. And then we do registration and we're at the event, but we have this close collaboration with growers to ensure that, again, we have the language support and that they're doing education in the language that needs to be done. But that's not sometimes possible in other counties because we don't have those models for growers to let us go in and talk to workers and have it to be a partnership. So it really varies. And the message that varies also, I think we're getting better as more supply is coming in. But at the beginning, like some practices that are happening in some counties are not the same in other counties. So it definitely puts barriers on our work as well.
Mm-hmm. So how do you interact with, the state and other organizations and the industry groups, other nonprofits? How do you interact with them and how do you kind of bring them all together?
We approach them directly and we invite them to collaborate. I think that's the best way because, again, this has to be not just for COVID, but it has to be like ongoing multi-level of coordination and collaboration. And something very important that we have been able to manage during this process is like, we are not coming to them to say, do it this way because I work at the university and it has to be this way. We listen from them and it's going to be in a level of understanding and a language and cultural sensitivity that is going to be the right information, but in the right way. So we constantly learning from the community partners. No one is imposing anything to the others. We are like a community that is learning and improving in the strategies and messages together.
A community of equals.
Yes.
With communication going both ways.
Yes.
That's great. So if if there's a farmer, an employer or an employee, a farm worker who you haven't reached yet, who would like to learn more about how to get in touch with you or to learn about your program, where should they go?
They can contact us directly, go to our website or go to the website of any of our partners and start the conversation from there. And
your website is?
Western Center for Agricultural Health and Safety. Just Google it and it will take you to the website. The website is in English and in Spanish, but we have links to the videos in different languages.
Okay, and we'll probably have that in our description here as well, a link to the website. So just to wrap up, have we learned lessons, and I think you've kind of alluded to this a little bit in general, but have we learned lessons that could be useful for promoting general worker safety in the future? And what are those lessons?
For me, I will say collaboration is the key. It's not going to be effort is going to solve the issues. It has to be partnerships at different levels, learning from each other and find practical solutions it may not be your way, my way. It's going to be the middle way, but it's going to help both partners.
Hernan?
I would agree. I think collaboration, when I look back at the pandemic and look at what we were able to accomplish through collaboration between growers, CBOs, and the state, we know that we can solve real life problems. It's just a matter of everybody coming together and developing those partnerships so that therefore the life of farm workers can be better in the years to come.
Okay, Said?
And for us, is really listen to the workers, listen to what their needs are. And I think that's when we're going to definitely find out what's not working. And I also feel that we need more funding. We need to have proper staffing in different agencies that are culturally and linguistic competent to serve the community, and that they're ready to answer the questions and really support the farm workers be safe.
All right, well, this has been really great. I want to thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your work.
Thank you for
having us and inviting us.
Teresa Andrews is an education and outreach specialist with the Western Center for Agricultural Health and Safety at UC Davis. Hernan Hernandez is executive director of the California Farm Workers Foundation, and Sarait Martinez is executive director of the Binational Center for the Development of Oaxacan Indigenous Communities. Until next time, I'm Satirius Johnson, and this is UC Davis Live COVID-19.